So I read something interesting a few days ago. Once again, it is astounding when I look back at this ridiculous John Titor time traveler story from 2000, how so much of it makes unbelievable sense. Enough sense that I have to do videos about it sometimes, like right now. President Park Geun-hye on Friday said South Korea and China could quickly begin various discussions on how to achieve a peaceful unification between South and North Korea. Somebody asked John Titor about the Asian nations, the Koreas, etc., what were their roles when this nuclear war breaks out across the earth? His reply was that they were forcefully annexed by China before this war took place. Said South Korea and China could quickly begin various discussions on how to achieve a peaceful unification between South and North Korea. Quote, peaceful unification is the fundamental and the quickest way to resolve nuclear and other issues, Park said in a press gaggle aboard Air Force One on the way back to Seoul from a trip to China, referring to tensions on the Korean peninsula. Tensions persist on the divided peninsula over the North's pursuit of its missile and nuclear weapons program. The communist country has a track record of staging provocations against South Korea. The North, which conducted 3 nuclear tests, has repeatedly vowed to develop its economy and nuclear arsenal in tandem, viewing its nuclear programs as a powerful deterrent against what it claims is Washington's hostile policy against it. Which is actually true. You can screw around with some of these other countries and these South American countries and overthrow their governments, but they don't have nuclear weapons. We do. And you know we'll use them. Right, because we're crazy. And by chance, have we ever had to do anything with North Korea since then, since they've had these nuclear capabilities? By chance, there's nothing we can do over there. But what about the people? They're the poor people, the women and children. They need our help. No, that's not going to work this time. I guess not, because no one seems to care. South Korea would cooperate with China for a peaceful unification, Park said. Various discussions could begin as soon as possible on how to achieve a peaceful unification. She did not provide a specific time frame. Oh, what are the chances that somebody in the year 2000, once again, when everything was just peachy, no 9/11, no Patriot Act, no dollar problems, no economic problems, although we did have the tech bubble bursting, you know, but relatively speaking, I mean, across the world, everything was in pretty good shape. And here comes this guy claiming to be a damn time traveler, telling you here's what your future's going to look like over the next many years. Giving specific details about all kinds of stuff that for one person to have is pretty insane, especially when a lot of what he said has happened. He talked about CERN finding this interesting particle that we've never seen before when they get their particle collider up and running, which wasn't back then at all. They didn't even have it. And sure enough, now that they have it and have tested it, they found some particle in there that is they call the God particle. And here we are in a matter of a week or two, or a couple weeks, they're getting ready to do the biggest whatever test that they've done to date to open up create a micro, as they say, a microscopic or micro-singularity black hole. Now hold on a minute. How, Mr. Titor, how does your time machine work? Well, just like you know how to drive a car, you know it has an engine, you know it has parts. I know about this thing, but I didn't design it, so I can't give you too many specifics, but yeah, I can tell you about it, is what he said. And he said it creates micro singularities, microscopic black holes, one basically in this direction and one in that direction, so counter directional from each other. And he mentioned about the going backwards in time and how you can only go a certain number of years before the timeline that you expect is so greatly not what you expect that it's pointless to even go back that far and try to like make a change or do something. It's just you're affecting some other world line, as he called it, so greatly that it doesn't matter. It's so different than your own. It's not going to affect your own when you go back to your own timeline, or world line, as he called it. And he said, even though I'm calling it my own world line, in reality, we know it's actually not the same exact world line that I actually left. But it's so extremely close and so almost perfect that none of us would ever know any different. Our wives and children, everything else, so we're all here and everything's the same when we get back. But it's still not the exact one, he says. That was interesting. So he tells us CERN is going to find this particle back when the particle collider wasn't even built by CERN. Freaking peacocks, I gotta dodge them like every day I go down the damn street. Oh, don't want to run that little bastard over. Let me get out of the way. This little bastard's not moving. You don't want to run over the thing. But, so he's saying CERN's gonna come out, develop this particle collider, and they're gonna find some interesting things. A particle that leads to time travel. When it asked about how his device works, it has two micro singularity black holes that are created in opposition. And here we are being told right now in the year 2015, 15 years later, CERN, with this new particle discovery, we're going to try to create a micro black hole. Maybe it was a coincidence this guy claimed to be a time traveler, right? Because some people can't understand that and don't want to believe time travel is ever even possible, period. So you have to say, well, maybe he was in the government inside, he knew some of these things. He can't know that. Right? Even if he was inside, how did he know that in a few years, exactly a few years from the time that he, left, as he said, that China would be sending a man in space? And they did. 2004, I believe, was the year. A few years later, he said, sure enough, they actually sent their man into space for once, finally. There's been some other, there's been numerous other things he talked about. And one of the interesting things, and I don't know what he was alluding to, but he talked about the government is not your friend, and when he said that when you hear them, you talk about these new weapons, these new non-lethal weapons. First of all, they are lethal. Second of all, when they say they're going to be used against the enemy, they're talking about you, is what he said. But then he said, someone asked him about why does this have to come, or why do the people, or why are they rising up, or whatever it is, and he mentions the problem. Well, it stems from a problem with the elections. That ultimately is what it stems from, this revolution that starts. But he said, because keep in mind, this is, again, the year 2000, so Waco was still kind of fresh in everybody's minds. The Texas thing when law enforcement came in, set the building on fire, shot people, and again, that's not the government's official story, but that's really what happened. Anyways, he said, well, just picture, he mentioned Elian Gonzalez. You remember that one where the SWAT team comes in pointing guns at everybody, they pour little kids in the closet or whatever, and they're pointing guns at everybody, and the kids, pointing at people's faces, and that made news. And he mentioned something about, when I see things like Elian Gonzalez, or, for example, the Waco incident, if the allegations against the government are true, about Waco. He said, let's pretend that the allegations that people made against the government are true regarding Waco. What do you suppose or would want to even happen once you know that those things have happened, or something like that? So what he's saying is once some event like Waco or major lying of the government against the people, or another Waco, what do you suppose or what would you expect the people to do? Rise up and revolt, is what he's essentially saying. Now, speaking of that, I just jogged my memory there and remembered something he said. He says, as we get closer to this time frame that he's speaking of, he said, you're going to notice. So basically, look out for precursor events, is what he was saying. You will notice Waco or similar Elian Gonzalez, etc. type events happening more and more frequently. And I thought he even said you'll see them even happening at least once a month. You know, it'll get to that point. Something like that. So, you know, when he's referring to Waco and then he's referring to Elian Gonzalez and talking about these things happening, you know, frequently. And then you look at what has happened fairly frequently in recent times with the, you know, unfortunately the black folks getting choked and killed by police, getting shot and killed. I just watched another video yesterday. Can't remember where this happened, but it showed the police video camera footage where he claimed, the officer, I pulled this car over, passenger got out and ran, driver stayed, I told the driver to turn the car off and get out, the door opens, then it closes and the car speeds off. I feared for my life and had to shoot the driver. I was like stuck, I was in the window and I was scared for my life. You see his police car footage, camera footage, and it doesn't show anything like that. Yes, he pulled him over. Yes, a young man ran out of the passenger side. He calls it in, doesn't even care, doesn't even chase him. Yeah, I got one running from me. The dispatch asked for a description. You can see him tell the guy, hey, get out of the car. The driver, door opens, door closes, and the car takes off. Nowhere at any time was this police officer's life in danger. He was next to the car. He wasn't in it. He wasn't reaching in. He was actually fully outside of the car. And then as the heat speeds off, he just pulls the gun out, pops off, shoots the guy right in the seat as he tries to drive off. Now, granted, you're gonna hear whatever person he shot, their track record, and he's been arrested a bunch of times, and he's a thug. Bottom line is, we have rule and law in this country, and everyone gets the same opportunity no matter what. And not to mention, the police officer didn't know who they were yet. He hadn't even gotten that far. He just knows, I got another couple of young black kids in the car. Blah, blah, blah. This is going to be the same old scenario. Sure enough, one's running. I've seen that a million times. But what if that was you? Or what if that was your kid? And his little friend, the little thug friend, runs from the car. Your kid, the driver, maybe he doesn't have a record, but is scared. I don't want to get in trouble. And decides, I'm going to take off. So yeah, you left. You were pulled over and you left. You're going to get a ticket. You're going to have to go to court. I don't think you're going to do any jail time, but you're going to at least do that. And of course, the police officer can get back in his car and try to pull you over again. And depending on how that goes, may depend on any other charges. But again, that's what we have charges. We have laws. You broke the law. You did these things. Does that give another person, because they have a badge and a gun, the right to determine your death sentence and then become the executioner, the jury, and the judge all at the same time, and then lie to everybody and state that, well, my life was in danger, so I had to do this. And then the video shows your life wasn't even kind of in danger, and you just literally shot and murdered somebody. You don't get to make that decision. Except they do get to make that decision, and they are continuing almost on a weekly, easily a monthly basis now of doing such things. And now that you have the federal government starting the race war as predicted by many of us, it's only going to get worse, because the police are not going to be backing down and are now worried about themselves, their lives, and literally, and for good reason. But at the same time, the black people have had enough too, and the federal government pushing this is now just opening the door for them to finally say, hey, well, all right, let's go, let's do this. Let's start posting on Facebook about killing police officers. Facebook leaves the post, leaves the guy's stuff intact. Now you go and write stuff like that on Facebook. You as a white person or non-government agency person, go and write something like that and see what happens. Go post something on YouTube about that and see what happens. This video contains, it's being pulled. Sorry, this video is no longer available due to content. But if it's content that the federal government and the mainstream media need to use, such as fake beheadings and fake shootings and all this crap, that's okay to stay on there. Or this guy calling for the murder of police and everything else on Facebook, that's allowed too. Keeping in mind, Facebook is supposedly not a government agency, right? It's a privately owned for-profit company. They don't have to allow everyone to have their free speech the way they want it. They have the right to stop you from saying or being a member of their site for any reason they want, because it's their site. Just like you own your house, you own your business, someone walks in, starts talking crap inside your business, you could call the cops and have them removed and trespass. They can never come back in again. You're allowed to do that. So why are these people allowed to say these things that are causing the violence to go up? Because it's the government doing it. That's why. So now the cops, who have basically been bailed out by the government many times and find themselves not guilty when murdering people and everything else, now the federal government is starting a war against them with the minorities. And they, the cops, are not going to just sit down and take it or think, oh, I'm going to be scared. No, they're going to, each traffic stop they do now, in their mind, oh, another black person, and oh, yeah, you guys want to kill us, don't you? I know, I've been seeing what you guys been posting online. I've been seeing that crap. Oh, yeah. That's the mindset they're going to go into this in now. It's going to get ramped up. And the person in the car may not be ready for some thug, jackboot thug cop who's all amped up, thinking this is going to be something that it actually ends up not being at all. But he don't know that. The cop's still in that mode of, oh, yeah. So then the guy in the car maybe smarts off back to him, hey, why are you talking to me that way? Why are you treating me this way? Which irritates and angers the cop even more. And the next thing you know, there's another video on YouTube of someone trying to leave the scene who doesn't want to deal with it and get shot because the officer feared for his life. Believe me, there's plenty of times when officers rightfully fear for their lives and have to take action. No question. But when you watch the video like the one I just saw, and you see that happening, you can't see that and say, well, yeah, I could see where he was, the way the car sped off, he may have thought he was going to get ran over, so we're not going to press charges on him. A monkey could watch that video and sign to you that this guy just got murdered. A monkey that learned sign language could sign to you, this cop just murdered somebody. Interesting times ahead, wouldn't you say? Take care.